Yeah, no. So it's just been a very good journey. You know, very good journey, and I wouldn't change it for the world in terms of the music, the angle of where we all came from. Hackney was considered to be a very desolate area, and if you look into it now, and as they do, things change over time, and you look at it now, as you couldn't even hardly buy a place down in Hackney anymore, and prices gone skyrocket through the roof, if you like. But yeah, still a very interesting place to be. It's a good ethos. It's a very good ethos in terms of work. The children can see people striking up businesses and having an angle and a change of circumstance in their life, which is always a very, very blessed thing to have. So just growing up in Hackney all my life, really, and being around all the talent in Hackney has been quite a blessing, to be fair. When Acid House came about, for me, Acid House was 89, 90. This was a big milestone in terms of change in genres of music that I used to listen to. A lot of it derived from going out to these raves, which are like powered by people just making phone calls and ending up going out to raves by following a convoy, and ended up going to a place where, nowhere, no man's land, and ended up either an outdoor rave or albeit being in a rundown warehouse. Those raves were like very, very powerful moment, a whole change of concept for me as a person who used to listen to dub music, soul music, rare grooves, the whole catalogue of that type of music. And places like Four Aces, a well-known establishment, we all went to. We all found our niches in terms of where the music was played. It was people like Mickey Finn, Billy Bunter. These guys had a major influence in captivating us in terms of the music and the DJing style as well, which was like, mixing and doing all this sort of stuff. But it was more captivated with the drug, as we all know, as ecstasy. And ecstasy had a major influence in how everybody came together. The influence through music, through dub music, transcending right through, like I said, when I was telling you about my earlier days of bringing the sound to different areas of Britain and encountering that and having real good interaction with people. And there was no fights, there was no squabbles. I kind of see it from a different point of view, because I know that music has a very powerful way of bringing people together. And I learned that from an early stage. So I understand the concept of a drug that can do that and, have everybody, together and as one under one roof. And however, the movement was so powerful in those days, 1990s, that you could not but get involved. The parties were enriched with lasers, lights, people just like robots walking around in the middle of the club and looking at you and standing up there and you might have been like off on one, if you know what I mean. And this was like, an enhancement to the music as well. And the music was very, very orchestrated in a way that really was such a powerful way of bringing it together. I mean, we're talking about people like Frankie Knuckles, music like Tears, Your Love. Frankie Knuckles was the master at that. He knew exactly what people wanted to listen to. He brought that to the masses, and I think that had a profound effect on all of us. R.I.P. to Frankie Knuckles, is a great producer, and big up in the mark of respect to him still. I mean, we're talking, he was the godfather of electro house. We are actually going onto Wallace Road now. This is where we used to have the raves. You could just pull the corrugated iron back and get into the rave. And obviously there was someone there standing to take a fiver or whatever. Yeah, amazing, amazing times. You know, Wallace Road, can't praise it enough. I was listening to DJ Ron's podcast with DJ Rap, and she mentioned about the Wallace Road rave. And literally, I'm driving here and it's to my left. For me, it was places like Wonderland, Dungeons, Leabridge Road, also, you know, Roller Express, all those places. Roller Express was like a real major turn for a lot of people. You know, you had people like Groove Rider, Fabio, all those guys playing down there. I specifically remember I actually played at Roller Express. We're talking about Powerhouse, we're talking about Club EQ, we're talking about Wax Club, which was more or less run by Club Telepathy, you know, the rave Telepathy, which is a big outset. Jungle Fever, who used to play at Marshgate Lane. These two giants, they had a real massive influence in what jungle music, drum and bass music, hardcore music brought to the masses. They used to have the Wax Club. Now, Wax Club used to be an area where, you know, we all used to play. So you used to have people like Andy C, when he made 31 Seconds, you know, he used to play there. A lot of the guys used to play there. Myself, Brocky, you know, a lot of guys have been through there. I think Funky Flirt used to play down there quite a lot. Also, you had people like Stevie Hyper D, you know, may he rest in peace, proper MC, you know, and everyone can state that. But, you know, it's a real pleasure to have these guys. I mean, these are giants, you know. Jungle Fever and Telepathy used to be like, you know, the number one hits for me, you know what I mean? So, you know, although there was others. My earliest stage of me getting into to play hardcore, it was a club in Stoke Newington, which my brother subsequently ran, and a guy named Basil as well. It was me and the Force of One. He's known as Ramsey now. I used to have Wallace, Xavier, Becky, who I know as Becky. Those are the days. Was really Aslan Mac, real proper DJs. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, that's where I kind of brought up myself, and you know, and started doing things differently. Started getting into raves like Rush, you know, playing at Ashwin Street, playing at Tasco Warehouse, and you know, and all these other areas that Rush used to pop up. And Bowler, who was the proprietor of the rave, always used to book me. Obviously, going by the name Digital back then. And after getting into all those types of things, I reckon that the earliest stage of me, as I said, getting to grasp with really going out and taking this thing seriously is like, I had my first encounter was Glastonbury, and Glastonbury happened by a chance, a stroke of luck, that my ex-boss was working out there. So I used to, and this is like 1992, 3, you know, we went out there, and he used to have this vegetarian store, yeah. Now this vegetarian store, you wouldn't believe me. This vegetarian, you had to make the store when you got there, and make sure that the food that you were cooking or providing for people met the hygiene standards. Yeah, so you'll have someone come round and make sure that your food was off the floor. Literally, I drove the van to Glastonbury, and you know, and the trailer on the back, and then we got that into Glastonbury, and then I was the person who used to ferry the money in and out of Glastonbury, you know, and then picking people up in the van and coming back into Glastonbury and all that sort of stuff. And those days was quite easy to get into Glastonbury. You know, either you jumped over the wall or you ran over the barrier. I used to meet the Bristol boys when they used to come out there. They were quite naughty back then, but yeah, you know, we all were. It's been pretty amazing time. When I played Glastonbury, I played, you know, I used to play tracks like Johnny L. You know, Johnny L was a big track. Hurt You So, that track was called. And it was a big track, but yeah, those times were super great. It moved from from acid house, hardcore. I mean, they were the same. Then it kind of moved into a different genre, which was hardcore jungle, and you know, people like Ragga Twins, Spliffhead, a tune called Spliffhead. All those types of tunes were very major influence in the way that I sort of like now taken into a different vortex, you know, because they were using samples of reggae music to mix with, you know, with hardcore, you know, Paul Ibiza, you know, people like that, Kemet Records. You know, all these people were major influence in how the music turned around. I Bring You the Future, you know, all these tunes were just like, you know, we used to play them like crazy mad, you know. But We.I.E. was a big tune, you know, Lenny D Ice, big tune. That was probably the milestone, you know what I mean? Lenny D Ice, you know, because it had that dub bass line. You know what I mean? It had that kind of movement that you can take to it. When I used to go to Four Races, and we used to listen to Mickey Finn and Billy Bunter and people like that. And obviously everyone used to be getting off on one and all this kind of stuff. I used to have this mate when he used to be on one, he used to dance like a crazy guy, but he was like the shuffler. You know what I mean? Proper shuffler. And I used to turn around and I used to look at him and I used to tap my mate and go, Jesus Christ, look at him. And we always used to laugh because he either used to take so many he couldn't control himself. But yeah, so that's where that is, you know. So yeah, jungle hardcore was a birth, you know what I mean? Was like, you know, a big birth and a big turnaround for acid house music. Yeah, and it's just a personal journey of mine. You know what I mean? It's just a personal journey of me and where I've come from to where, you know, hardcore had been involved in my life. Rain dance was a big, huge influence of hardcore music. So yeah, it had been a very huge journey. I do remember I used to go to Dingwalls quite a lot and Camden Palais. Dingwalls were the first time where I end up meeting Carl Cox down there. These were like guys who just monster giants in the game, even from back then. You know, they knew what they were doing. And yeah, Carl Cox is a master of ceremony. We know it. So yeah, big up Carl Cox every time. Yeah. Getting into radio started off in a place called Leighton Community Radio, and Leighton Community Radio was run by two guys. I think it was Dave and Dave. I think they were called. So Leighton Community Radio Station was one of the first stations I had been on, and we were called the DML House Crew. And it was Digital, myself, Loxley, who you know ran Lee's High Power Sound, and DJ Minx. So Minx was a lady. We all sort of did this rounds of me doing hardcore music. They both played house music. The combination went really well back then because house and, you know, housey hardcore, was a thing. Do you know what I mean? Incidentally, on that station, that is when I first met a guy named Deluxe. We literally had to go through proper testings to be on radio. I mean, we literally had to sit down there, talk about the record, the track, before you even think about getting onto radio. So it wasn't the case that we needed to submit a tape or anything like that. We literally had to go in a room filled with people and do a presentation telling what record was going to play, basically how did you sound on radio, you know what I mean? And I think I took to it like fishing water, basically. Yeah, the rest is history, really. I ended up going on to a station called Rush FM, who were run by Vitamin, Dicer, Russia, and people like Gaffer, R.I.P. to Gaffer, you know, people like Shocking B, Funky Flirt, all those guys were like, you know, a major part of that station, and I was happy to be on that station too. You know, it was a real testament of time. And then I started Rush FM with a X-Man and Stamina, who I mentioned before. Yeah, we all three of us was on that station. We had a big prominent part to play on that radio station. When I finished at Rush and then moved on, I then got onto Kool FM. You know, Kool FM, well-known station, big station for me. I mean, these guys were massive. You know, we're talking about people like DJ Ron being on there, DJ Brocky. All these guys were like, you know, Younghead and all these guys were on this station. And it was a massive, massive milestone for me to be on Kool FM. And Eastman, I submitted the tape I gave to Smurf. But I think equally it was coerced by some of the guys who I know already, who's like Funky Flirt, Shocking B. We had a massive, massive part to play on Kool FM. It's been quite a blessing, to be fair. You know, I do recall me going up into the tower blocks occasionally with Smurf, who used to run Kool FM, and watch how they used to rig up the set to distribute across London, across Hackney, if you like. Yeah, that was pretty amazing to see that all go down. I was never one to go out on the roofs too much, but I ventured occasionally. But that was just to get the rig on that night, you know, to get the station on. Radio stations had that power. You are literally talking to people across the nation. One of my first tracks I did with someone called Dexterous and King of the Jungle. They made the tracks, which was Rude Boy Keith and Dexterous. They were the two, you know, they were MC and DJ, you know, so Rude Boy Keith being MC, Dexterous being the DJ. They made this track called King of the Jungle, which is a massive tune. I mean, the clarity on that tune as well. You know, I've still got the dub, and I can tell you now the dub plate, which was I cut at Music House, and I can still play that dub today, and the clarity on there. I don't know how Dexterous got that clarity, yeah, because there's a lot of tunes that didn't have that clarity on there, but he managed to swing that in a good way. But I remember doing a tune with Dexterous in 1993, a tune called Search for Them. And it's never been released, and I might have tendencies to go back in on it. I haven't got the parts, but I definitely got the track, yeah, and you know, I look forward to maybe even bringing that back to life at some point. At the same time, I was known for my work ethic, which was to do with building. So I was a builder first and foremost. So, you know, I used to do my building. I obtained my city and guilds at an early age, became a plumber and had these things under my belt. So most of my bread and butter was to do with me working. Music didn't take the first breadwinning avenue. it's been a journey with the music. Coming back to Kool FM and coming back to Eastman, they did an album. Eastman asked me to be on the album. He also funded to make that track. It's the Kool FM album, and I had a track on there called Decibels. And yeah, so I was on there with numerous amount of people, Brocky, Shy Effects, just a few to mention, DJ Kane. But yeah, and then we also had the big launch for the album on Oxford Street, and that was really, really cool. That was great, and that was the first time I really ventured out of my comfort zone to really, you know, make a track that was quite known. After, you know, a few DJs playing it, Brocky played it, I think, one New Year's at one of the Rex, Stratford Rex, and he played it there. The club popped off. You know, I was hugely impressed, because you just don't know what the track is going to do until a time. But when I made that track with a guy named Cool Breeze. He was very good at what he did. It found its way into the Kool FM album, and you know what I mean, the rest is history with that.